Welcome everyone to the September meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Wild leads us in the pledge to the flag. The pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond? Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Loeb? Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan? Here. Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino? Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde? Here. Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received the minutes of our August 17 board meeting. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes. Ms. Hogan not to approve. Seconded by Mr. Dickinson, Supervisor Dickinson. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. At this time, I would like to call open the public hearing on proposed ground lease with Schermerhorn Aviation and ask the clerk to read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the approval of 2 ground lease agreements between Warren County and Schermerhorn Aviation, LLC for construction of Hangar Number 7 and Hangar Number 8 located at the Warren County Floyd Bennett Memorial Airport. Notice is further given that the Warren County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on September 21st, 2018 at 10 a.m. at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center, Route 9, Queensbury, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed ground lease agreements between Warren County and Schermerhorn Aviation, LLC for construction of Hangar Number 7 and Hangar Number 8 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said proposed lease agreements are available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Anyone here wishing to speak to the board regarding this ground lease may do so. Please step to the podium, state your name and where you're from, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Last chance. All righty. Then I will close the public hearing. And we will move into the second public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 4 for the year 2018 entitled a local law promoting the use of reusable bags and reducing use of single carry-out bags by prohibiting the distribution of plastic bags in Warren County. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on August 17, 2018, public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on September 21st, 2018 at 10 a.m. at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center, Route 9, Queensbury, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law 4 for 2018 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Again, I would ask you, if you wish to speak to this and address the board, to step to the podium, state your name and where you're from, and just please try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And with that, I'll invite anyone. Just raise your hand. Sir?
Good morning. Good morning. I read in the paper this morning that at yesterday's meeting or the meeting before, someone had suggested that we should let the market and the citizens move the ball on this issue in terms of banning the bag. And I would usually agree with that. But sometimes the market and the public only see, what they only see today and now. You folks who are the leaders in our community, it's up to you to help us keep an eye on tomorrow and the future. So I would ask you to help our community take this step towards environmental responsibility one that's long overdue, and one that's needed desperately. And please vote to ban the bag. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ann Lassell, Glens Falls resident, retired science teacher. So you know what side I'm coming down on. Where we begin, close your eyes, take a walk through your house. Note everything that's made of plastic, not just the bags. Not one iota of that is going to go back to the earth. Not one thing. Second fact, in the middle of the Pacific, there is a flotilla of plastic bags that you can fit Texas in twice. Kills everything, marine mammals, everything that tries to. Texas twice, that's a couple thousand miles. It's just going round and round and round. Locally, I was at Haviland Cove on Wednesday walking the dog. I found no fewer than 7 plastic grocery bags flying around. We've got to take care of this problem. And it's not like there isn't any other thing that we can do. Let's get with it. You want your kids to live in a world like that? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ann Murray, and I come to you from a health issue point of view. I read everything in the papers. My daughter is an environmental engineer. My granddaughter is studying to be one. And I've talked at length to them. This all comes down to education. And the health issue I want to talk to you about is I worked as an educator for 18 years. I then worked for the county. I made a point the other day of going and sitting outside a grocery store and watching where people were dragging their bags in from. One woman opened her car and removed 2 huge wet dogs out the bag she was taking into the grocery store. When I got in the store, I sat in the front. I watched another woman come in with 2 children in diapers, put her bags in the cart, put her kids on top of the bags. Now, I want you to think about this. There are several communities here, and I know this from working in the homes with families, with the county, where there are infestations of bed bugs. There is lice. We used to deal with it in the schools. I don't care what school it was, we had to deal with it. These bags are coming in. If you go to strictly fabric bags, these bags are coming in from some of these homes. They're being put in the cart. Now you and I come along. I would rather have a choice. I would rather we get back to the education in the schools about how to deal with that. Because we can ban every plastic thing in the world, but until we educate the public, all of them, on what's going on, they're going to be, some of these bags that I've seen in the grocery stores people bring in, it's obvious they are not washed when they're taken home. They're probably thrown in a closet somewhere. I saw a man the other day, his bag was covered with dried red meat juice. Now, again, I'd rather have that option. If I want to bring it back, I'll bring it. But there are certain people that I don't care to follow with my grocery cart coming through the line. And then that bag is going back home to their house and right back to the store. So that's a health issue. I don't care what neighborhood you live in, what socioeconomic group you're with. It's something to consider. And As I say, there are several communities right now battling bed bugs. Where do those bags go? Back in those houses, then into our grocery store. It's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Lionel Lemery, and I'm a resident of Queensbury. I haven't had the pleasure to meet any of you folks except for one person, Mr. Stroh. So let me give you a little thumbnail sketch of where I'm coming from. I grew up in Glens Falls, graduated from Glens Falls High School in 1962. A couple years later, I got married and moved away to finish my college education, then pursued a 34-year career with the U.S. Forest Service as a professional forester and land manager. I have led a life, professional life and a private life promoting environmental stewardship. Approximately 3 years after 50 years of being away, I moved back to the area because of the natural resources and the fact that my roots are here. I am strongly in favor of banning single-use plastic bags for various reasons. Let me address a few of those. First off, if any of you folks on the board have not read the June issue of National Geographic, you have a professional responsibility to read that article. The cover says, Planet or Plastics. 18 billion pounds, billion pounds of plastic ends up in the ocean each year. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, the plastic iceberg. We have created a global environmental disaster with our inability to manage plastic waste. Some of the comments I've heard or read recently in the paper. The government should not intrude on the private person's ability to decide whether they want to use a bag or not. I maintain that the government, you, the Board of Commissioners, not only have a duty but a responsibility to address this issue and not kick the can down the road waiting for some higher level to do your job for you. Your highest responsibility is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of your constituents. The unregulated, unmanaged plastic waste that we have in our society is a threat, not so much to us, but to our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. That's why we're here talking about this. Let the marketplace and citizens move the ball. The marketplace has created this environmental disaster because it's more profitable and cheaper to produce throwaway items from a non-renewable resource and let the public do as they may. It will hurt business, particularly with tourists. I brought along a few bags, part of our cache of almost 30 bags that we have collected over the last 15 or so years that we obtained free of charge as promotional efforts from car dealers, from grocery stores, from educational institutions, etc., etc. What better opportunity to promote tourism in Warren County than to send our tourists back home with an attractive, reusable bag with a message on it extolling the beauty of our area and demonstrating our commitment to protecting the environment so they can come up here and enjoy it. What better use of a portion of the bed tax that is debated every year of how to use it than to subsidize a large quantity of these reusable bags and the printing of this message so people can take it home to New Jersey, to New York, to Long Island, and use them in their daily life and let their friends and neighbors look at the bag and read the promotional message about our beautiful area. You're going to increase our costs significantly. The 30 bags that we haven't paid a nickel for. They were all free. Tourists come up here and spend in the hundreds and maybe thousands of dollars for their vacation, paying an extra $1 or $2 for a reusable plastic bag is not a significant problem for them. In summary, let me say that we need to address this issue. The most effective way to make a change is at the grassroots level, not waiting for a higher level to do it for us. We have waited long enough, so it is a problem. I'm a volunteer who takes care of several miles of the feeder dam, or the feeder canal trail, excuse me, and I'm a volunteer with the Feeder Canal Alliance. Several weeks ago, I covered several miles of trail in Hudson Falls, picked up a half a dozen bags, not uncommon. I paddled the feeder canal from Hudson Falls to Feeder Dams every year and pick up bags on the bank, in the water. I pedaled my bicycle to the Queensbury Township office yesterday, roughly 2 miles, and counted at least a dozen big pieces of plastic in the brush on the side, out of view from the road when you're driving down the highway 45 miles an hour. But there were at least a half a dozen plastic bags. I picked up plastic bags on the top of storm sewers. I picked up plastic bags across from the parking lot for the bike trail on the country club road. It's not difficult to find them if you look a little bit. So in summary, let me implore you, first off, to read about the global environmental problem we have with plastic waste and to do the right thing and promote the use of reusable bags with the banning of single-use plastic bags. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Willow, and I'm from Johnsburg. There is only one real thing that we are here to talk about, the future. Not one person that I have seen argue against the plastic bag ban has said that plastic bags are bad, has not said that plastic bags are bad for the environment or they don't biodegrade. Because it's a fact that these bags will be here long after your decision is made. I could spend all day giving you statistics like the average American family uses 1,500 bags per year, or that only around less than 1% of the U.S. plastics are actually recycled. But that won't really change your mind. Statistics help us understand, and surveys and studies give us backings for our arguments. But that, you see, that really doesn't matter, because we don't need those to look and see what is right in front of our eyes. On my drive here today, I saw about 11 plastic bags on the roadside, hanging from trees and in bushes. Now, there was other plastic, of course, as well, but that's a discussion for another day. We need to start somewhere to solve our plastic bag problem. I'm only 16. I'm too young to vote or to run for office myself, which is why I am asking you to act. I'm asking you to look beyond the problems of today and look to the health and well-being of tomorrow. Look around. Everyone in this room that I've seen talk, both today and on Wednesday, are under the age of 25 for the plastic bag ban. This is our future. Don't add to the long list of problems that we're going to have to solve. This is your decision to make, but ours to live with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Bernice Menace, and I live in Fort Anne, but I shop all the time in Queensbury because there's not many little stores in Fort Anne. And I'm very much for the banning of single-use plastic bags. And very simply, I mean, Lionel said almost everything that I might have said, but I'm mainly for it because it is the right thing to do and because we can do it. There are not that many things we can do, we have control over. And I'll just say, just briefly on the side, the reason I wasn't at the first meeting was it was my High Holy Day, and the High Holy Day is Yom Kippur. And in that holiday, and most people don't know it, but you're basically looking at how you miss the mark as an individual and as a community to be the most full, most responsible person you can be. And you try to bring awareness to everything and try to say it's a kind of remorse kind of thing to see the harm you've done so that you can do better. And it's for the community. And so that's what I was doing the day of the first meeting. And that's what I feel so strongly about, that it is our responsibility as individuals and as a community to move beyond what I'll say our narcissism, our present thing. It's convenient. We want to do what we want to do. It's all right. To say that there's something larger than us. There's a world out there. It's our home. It's our only home. When people litter on I live in the Woodlands, I find litter all the time as I'm jogging, and I think, don't they know that this is their home? Why do people feel that they can litter? And I think they do it because it's easy. And I think for the person who spoke, I've been an educator for 30 years, and I think we can retrain ourselves to become more aware and see the effect of our actions. I could quote what many people already know, that it's a fossil fuel. We see all the things that are the problem because of fossil fuel and CO2 and the greenhouse effect. It is small. But what I would say is that's what we can do. We're a small community, and we can do what's small for the larger good. That's not a reason to not, it's a global problem, but we as individuals can meet that, can do what we can do. Let's see. So again, we tell people not to litter, to not throw gasoline in the streams, to not have combustion that pollutes the air. This is part of that program to say, look beyond your individual convenience and say that there's a world out there that we want to save. And I saw the young person who spoke. I'm 73, so I'm at the other end. But I really feel responsible for our world, and I want to leave it in a better place. Let me see. What we already know that people say that it's hard to do. How many cities have done it? How many countries have done it? And if large countries, if India, Ireland, Israel can ban the bag, or at least make it inconvenient for people to have those plastic bags, if they can do it as countries, I don't understand why we can't do it. If cities can do it, it's like, what is stopping us from doing what we can do? Let's see this. So the notion as an educator, and also my religious holiday, was that we can choose. We make choices. We're given the choice to do good or evil, to do, what would they say, to choose life or death. I feel like small moves can be moves for life, for the life of our planet. And I'll just, the last quote I had at the temple before I left was, "It is not your responsibility to finish the work of perfecting the world, but you are not free to desist from it either." And I think the notion is we can't change the whole world, but we can do little things that will help us live in our precious earth. And so I really request strongly that you ban the plastic bag, because we can do it, we're able to do it, and it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Carol LaGrasse. I live in Stony Creek, and I'm a newcomer. I've only been here 43 years, so I can't claim to that. I'm a retired member of the Stony Creek Town Board, and I discovered 2 years ago that I can't read my own writing anymore, so I'm looking at my notes. In the field that I worked, which is civil engineering, the biggest thing the firm did was solid waste disposal. Now, I've been recycling for nearly 70 years, so I didn't do it when I was an infant, maybe sometime I was 7 or so. And there was recycled newsprint, and newsprint is still the best thing to recycle. It's profitable, it's perfectly recyclable, And of course, as you probably know, it was the biggest export from New York Harbor for many years, went out to China. But China's gotten disgusted with us because we have this one-stop recycling thing now, and they call it the American garbage, and so they're not taking our one-stop recycling. So I was involved in the first or second recycling center in the United States, right at Earth Day. So it's something that I have been involved in. My brother Tom Winter, he established a recycling center at Penn State, and they recycled 22 different basic raw materials. So this is something we're pretty fanatical about. However, I don't think that store bags are the key to plastic. I challenge anyone who speaks against the store bags to tell me that they're not wearing any plastic. I try to get pure wool. I couldn't possibly afford it, but I've got some old coats and things. But here's my sneakers with plastic on them. This is pure wool. This is plastic. This is pure cotton, I think. It's all mixed in everywhere. And I doubt that the 18 billion pounds, one of the speakers mentioned, of plastic is all plastic bags. It's something we happen to see, and it's disgusting looking. But it's coming from everywhere and from all different ways that doesn't adequately decompose. So the store bags are actually perfectly recyclable. They can be reused as that particular material, reprocessed, and also they're heat generating. Plastics are really great fuel, and they're actually one of the few forms of plastic comes in that can be squished down. Plastic bottles are very hard to move from Stony Creek, where we live, down to an incinerator. It's a bit of a haul because they're all full of air, So they're very recyclable. But I think the problem is, and it'll be a problem for years because the state government is so corrupt. The New York State recycling law went in effect, I think, in the late 70s. It's hard to remember all these dates. And a lot of things that we do simply don't comply, and the state doesn't seem to care. DEC isn't involved. So my husband Peter and I, we naturally don't take new plastic bags unless we've somehow forgotten to have a bag with us. And I'm sorry that I don't think our house is that dirty or anything, but we do carry in bags that we carry out. But they're reusable, old, cruddy, or new-looking, because we forgot one time or another, plastic bags from stores, and I don't feel that's a crime. Price Chopper gives a 3-cent rebate, and you don't see many people bringing in their old bags for the 3 cents, but that's probably about what a bag is worth. 3 cents seems pretty fair. But we bring it in, and we're not that broke or anything, but, get you 3 cents. It's better than wasting the bag. So I think that, this piece of legislation really hits the mark. Really misses the mark. Excuse me. I maybe made a Freudian slip. I wish it would be easy, like some of the people think it, to make this small difference and have the small difference matter. But I don't think that it's a small difference that really matters. I think that it's a feel-good difference. And we go on, we wear our plastic, we talk against oil, but we're wearing shirts made from oil, dresses made from oil, ties made from oil. Who's got a pure silk tie even? They're costly. Who has a silken dress? When I was a young woman, made all my dress clothing, I had a beautiful flaxen dress. I could not afford a flaxen dress. So that's the way it is. You can't afford to use these materials because they're made from petroleum. And then same thing with the plastic bags. So I'm sorry about that. But the solution I offer is this, that the Board of Supervisors would instead resolve to put a budgetary item in to facilitate the easily recycling of plastic bags when you go into a store like Price Chopper. Now, they give you the 3 cents, but when you go back to the place of these stores where they have a recycling facility, it may smell, not mentioning any names, it may be dirty, and you finally come to the pail which holds the plastics. And so you take your hand, you take the bags you finally feel can't be reused, you smush them into something, and you smush your hand down in there, and you shove them in with all your might. It looks like it hasn't been emptied in days because there's nobody else doing it before or after you. So I would like to see facilitating the reuse of the plastic. And if people, want to go on wearing plastic clothes because the other clothes are too expensive, let them. But I don't think that they should feel guilty about the bags. They're just particularly unrecyclable because people have always littered. They throw out their stupid plastic bags. And so you see it. and you don't see their clothes that end up in the ocean. So God bless you all, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We need to be courteous to everyone that wishes to speak, please. Yes, sir.
My name is Joel. I live in Glens Falls. I too am an engineer. I strongly support the proposal made by the prior speaker. I think it's the most sensible way of action. Unfortunately, a lot of the problems that are talked about are with plastic in general are not necessarily applicable to plastic bags. I think the extra cost of trying to always remember and forgetting the reusable bags is places an unfair burden on people, especially who, let's say, again, they're not planning how much groceries they were going to get or expected to get that many groceries. And the idea is that to encourage people to recycle. Now, I understand plastic bags do end up on the street and stuff like that. But again, speaking for myself, and I think most responsible people, they try to reuse the plastic bags they get from the store. And again, responsible people will not go throwing them off into the garbage. And you always have people who make a choice, and the choice they make is not a good one. They decide to throw it out. But we should encourage, like the prior speaker encouraged it, recycling of the bags, and people can make a choice, or one of the responsible choices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chris Harrington, City of Glens Falls. I'd like to make 3 points. The one thing I think was brought up the other night I haven't heard yet is the impact it will have on small businesses. New York State's a disaster as far as small businesses. I feel this is a pile-on for these small businesses. It seems like not a day can go by, whether it be a county board or a state assembly, wanting to say they're for businesses, but then they have to add another law. I've always said I wish some of these assemblies and some of these boards would actually retract some laws or change instead of make laws. So I think that has to be considered, particularly in a state like New York. Secondly, I keep hearing about, I guess there's an argument about, all these plastic bags around. I do a lot of bike riding. The other day I went from Glens Falls to Lake Luzerne. I saw a lot of cans. I saw a lot of Stewart cups. I saw do not litter signs. I don't think I saw one plastic bag. And I do a lot of bike riding. And I don't see that being a problem. So if we're trying to fix the problem, let's have an effective law. I understand we want to be worldly, we want to take the lead, but I don't think there's a problem in Warren County. Last thing I want to say about personal responsibility. It seems that that's gone by the wayside. I mean, I take my bags, I use them for my lunch, I also go to Hannaford once a day, and I put them away in the recycling bin. Now, I know there's a question, China's not taking recycling. Does it go to the incinerator? I don't know if anybody in the Board of Supervisors called up Hannaford and find out, hey, where does it really go? I mean, again, it's about personal responsibility. Lastly, I don't mean to offend anybody. Seems like a lot of empty nesters up here. I have a family of 5. I do a little bit of shopping. I do go to Aldi's. I bring my box. But that's usually because nobody in my family, I like the Aldi products. Nobody else really does. But my wife goes to Hannaford, and she comes in with, 8 bags. So I think from a perspective, my perspective, having a family of 5, this is going to be quite the challenge. Lastly, I also want to say that I think sometimes people think if you're against the ban for plastic bags that you're not sensitive to the environment. I am. I bike to work. I live in the city of Glens Falls. I believe in sidewalks. I don't believe in the vehicle that everybody has to get into to go to Stewart's, to take the plastic bag, get in the car and get home. There's so many things here that we can do as a society. I think this is a lot of effort being put into a local law that I don't think is going to make much of a challenge. I think it's a statement, but I don't think it's going to make a big effect in Warren County. Warren County wants to make a local law. I think vaping's a big issue. Maybe you look at your neighbors to the north and follow that. But I want to reiterate I think this is a bad law, and I hope the Board of Supervisors not only listens to the public hearing. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of people out in the stores, and that's how a lot of you guys start making decisions from what you hear from the public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Whitehead?
Travis Whitehead, Queensbury. If this proposed bag ban would truly reduce the hydrocarbon waste and littering that we all see, I'd be asking you to pursue it. But for the past several months, I was assuming that it would. And I have been supporting this idea for the last several months. I think some of you know that. And now maybe some of you might think I'm throwing you under the bus, but I am not. I took a harder look at this, and it's given me grave doubts about this working. We're not talking about turning off a spigot here on a plastic change. What you're talking about is changing the behaviors of people. That's a tough thing to do. The bags that were handed today are 1/2 mil thick, all right? Your proposal says you can't put any bags out that are thinner than 2.5 mils, 5 times thicker than that. If behaviors don't change, you're going to put 5 times as much plastic into the environment as is going in today. If they change somewhat and half the people come back with those bags and reusing, you're still putting in 2.5 times the plastic than you are today. It's behaviors. So let's talk about behaviors and incentives. The supermarket pays about 2 cents a bag now. A heavier bag probably won't cost them 5 times that. It'll probably cost them about 6 cents a bag. Paper bags are more expensive. They're about 15 cents a bag. These stores get you into there because they give you discounts like $3 a pound off of beef. Buy one, get one free. Coupons. They even give out free gas. Do you really think that they want to screw around over a nickel? I mean, this is not what they want to do. And that's the American way. That's how we get people in here to do things and change behaviors. I don't know if this bill attacks that. We've all heard about Europe. I've spent a small amount of time in Europe. It doesn't take you very long to understand that they do things very, very differently there. Aldi's is a German company that does business here. We probably all had some experience with them. The first time you're kind of shocked, like, oh geez, now what do I do? I mean, there's no bags, are you kidding me? But after you go there once or twice, it's real easy to know what you're in for, and you just take the card out to your car, or you take one of the boxes that they have there, or you bring your bag. It's not a big deal. Sam's Club does it, BJ's does it. There are a lot of companies that do it, and that's a model that works. And perhaps we should be starting with something that we know that works and see what we can do to maybe encourage other people to follow that. I mean, you can give out, awards to help people like Aldi's. I mean, you could go ahead and work with people from Price Chopper and everything and say, what can we do to encourage you to, not put all this plastic into the stream? It doesn't take, once you get used to it, it doesn't take any thought to go ahead and do without those bags. And I'm sure the supermarkets don't want to hand you those bags. So one thing you could also consider, though, is that you can look at, your own house here. And you probably all remember about a year ago, a new water fountain was put out there. And right along with it was a dispenser for all these little plastic cups. All right? I can guarantee you, you can look around here, you might find a couple of containers that say recycle on them or something, and you think you're doing your job by going ahead and putting them in there. I can guarantee you, no matter what container you put them in there, unless that thing has a nickel deposit on it and one of the custodians are pulling that out, every bit of that is ending up in the trash plant. The trash plant. there's something else for you to consider. Don't miss the mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Bob Fallman. I live in Queensbury. For a while this morning, I thought I was going to be the only one that was going to speak against this ban. But I happen to like these plastic bags. They're very useful. I use them for lining my trash cans. I use them for picking up the trash along the road, and a lot of people use them for poop bags, for the dog poop bags. So this is one product I think that when you look at it, has a afterlife, you might say. In other words, without having to reprocess or do anything, you can use it for a number of different things on there. And I heard this morning there's a lot of people find them hanging from trees and everything else. I don't doubt that there are some places like that. But I have 1,250 feet of road front in Queensbury, and I never find a plastic bag. In the last year and a half, I picked up one, and that had a dirty diaper in it. That sticks in my mind. But, you know, that was another use I forgot to mention on that thing on there. But these things have a lot of different uses, and to start and pass legislation here in Warren County that is not universal throughout the state. It's a bunch of patchwork laws that, kind of screw everything up. I don't agree with that at all. And I think one of the other things that you really want to consider here, because Warren County's, we get most of our money from tourism. And you don't want to make it difficult for people to come here. You're going to put in your advertisement, come to Lake George, come to Warren County, come to the Adirondacks, but don't forget your reusable bags and your doggy poop bags. I mean, that's not what you want. You want it easy for them. They come up here and they go shopping up here, that they can go and do their shopping and go home. I guess the other thing, too, I read in the paper about a diver out in Lake George that said the bottom of the lake was full with these bags. And I have a place on Schroon Lake, too, and I regularly, I'm not a diver, but I but I snorkel along the shoreline just to make sure I don't have any broken glass in here. That's my big problem. Never have seen a plastic bag on the bottom of Schroon Lake. Never had one washed up on my beach. I don't know whether the people in Schroon Lake are a lot better than the people in Lake George or not. I don't know. But I don't have a problem with that up in there, and I think, a lot of these things get blown out of proportion. So, let's see, I don't think I've got anything else on here. No, one last thing on that, too. They're talking about reusing these bags, and you can use them for a lot of different purposes, but this is Warren County, and as far as I know, Warren County sends all its trash to that burn place in Hudson Falls. Has that changed, or at least most of it? It isn't landfilled. We don't put it on a barge and send it out in the ocean there to dump it in the ocean or anything else. It's burned. So there's a tertiary use for these bags. It provides fuel for the incinerator that makes electricity. So it's, again, a third use for this thing. These things are used for a lot of different things, but ultimately they end up in the trash and they end up getting burned and made into electricity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jim Calvin. I'm the president of the New York Association of Convenience Stores, representing chain and independent retailers here in Warren County and across the state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the board, for the chance to offer the perspective of a mini-mart that would have to comply with whatever action on plastic bags you deem appropriate. Thousands of Warren County residents started their day this morning with a stop at their local convenience store for a cup of coffee, a newspaper, a fill-up, a bagel, a sandwich for lunch later on, whatever. Our job is to be open, have what they need, and get them in and out in a fast and friendly way. Our members strive to be environmentally responsible. They recycle thousands of tons of corrugated cardboard every year, hundreds of thousands of deposit beverage containers. They constantly upgrade their lighting, HVAC, and fixtures to improve energy efficiency. They invest millions to ensure compliance with stringent EPA and DEC standards for underground petroleum storage tanks. Convenience stores are in the convenience business. One convenience we provide is a plastic bag to customers who need it, especially for frozen or refrigerated products like milk or ice cream, bagged ice. for which paper bags are not a viable alternative, especially for senior citizens or customers who are on foot. While we've been trying to eliminate unnecessary plastic bag consumption, we oppose banning plastic bags altogether. Please keep in mind that a high percentage of our customer visits are unplanned, unlike those to a supermarket where people are more likely to remember to bring the cloth reusable bags. We're open to discussing alternatives with you, incentives to provide consumers with encouragement to switch to reusables, but to date no one has reached out to us, at least not to NIAX, to ask our opinion. In our view, the only thing worse than a ban on plastic bags would be a partial ban that arbitrarily lets favored businesses continue handing out plastic bags. Some of today's convenience stores have a wider selection of prepared foods than some restaurants, yet under the law, restaurants would be exempt. Why? A plastic bag's a plastic bag, wherever it originates. If you're going to ban them, I think you have an obligation to be fair and ban them across the board. In conclusion, we care about Warren County's environment, but banning plastic bags would make convenience stores inconvenience stores, and therefore we're opposed. But we're open to discussing other alternatives that would help achieve the goals of the Board of Supervisors. Thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, and thank you. I'm Mona Golub from Schenectady, New York, and today representing Price Chopper Market 32. Some of the words that were attributed to me in a recent article were somewhat misstated, so I'm happy to be here to have the opportunity to speak to you directly. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your persistence on this issue and your desire to drive a sustainable result. Price Chopper Market 32 fully supports effort to reduce the number of disposable bags in the waste stream. And as such, we've been encouraging conversion to heavy-duty reusable bags since the early 2000s, collecting, recycling thin film single-use plastic from each of our stores through our Resource Recovery Center in Rotterdam, New York, for about 35 years now. And unlike most retailers, as has been stated by a few different speakers today, we offer a 3-cent rebate for each and every bag that's brought back to us for reuse. But our thinking expands upon yours in a few notable ways. Your proposed legislation equates single-use carry-out bags to thin film plastic alone and defines handleless paper bags as heavy-duty reusable alternatives. We consider handleless paper bags to be as disposable as thin film single-use plastic. Failing to acknowledge the disposability of handleless paper bags and presuming that they will replace plastic ones is neither an environmentally nor financially sustainable solution. The carbon footprint behind the production and distribution of paper bags is wholly inefficient and wreaks havoc on our forests. And despite popular myth, they are more costly to recycle than plastic, and they don't biodegrade easily in landfills, given their inherent lack of oxygen. Now, paper bags, from the consumer perspective, make an equally compelling case. They're difficult to carry. They rip easily. They rip even more easily when wet. And they rarely get used a second time. And we talk about disposable bags, and sometimes people speak to the fact that they reuse a bag once. Once you fill it with dog poop, you're not going to reuse it a third time. You may use it to transport garbage after you've brought it home from the supermarket or the convenience store or where have you, but you're not going to use it again and again. That's the nature of disposable bags. They're not customer friendly, which is essentially paper bags, why they went out of style 40 years ago, and why fewer than 1% of our customers ask for them today. And they cost 3 times as much as plastic bags. Relative to another of the 3 heavy-duty reusable alternatives that are proposed in your law, we don't see slightly thicker plastic bags as a long-term solution either. They're just fancy versions of thin film plastic bags. And your proposed law allows for banned thin film plastic bags to be brought back into stores for reuse. Now, encouraging the reuse of banned disposable bags will certainly create an unnecessary challenge for those attempting to comply with and or enforce the law. And why would you make an exception for takeout restaurants? If you're going to ban the bags for environmental reasons, then the noble intent should carry across all lines. And more conversation around SNAP and WIC recipients and how they would be equipped to comply with an outright ban is imperative. And I haven't heard any of that, despite the fact that I brought it up at similar public hearings across this state and others. Retailers can't be expected to supply heavy-duty reusables to them every time they shop. And by law, SNAP recipients can't be stigmatized by receiving a disposable bag that's been banned for everyone else. Now, given our 3-cent rebate, we're able to measure something that our competitors are not. We know that 10% of our customers bring back bags to our store for reuse. That means 90% of the community doesn't. 90% of the community, including this community, less than 10%, bring them back. 90% would need to change their behavior in order to comply with a ban. That's a real challenge. In Great Barrington, Mass., where a bag ban went into effect about 6 years ago, neither plastic nor handleless paper bags are given out for free. Handled paper bags are sold at cost for a dime as a transitional, reusable alternative. And as a result, 75% of that community has converted to heavy-duty reusables. In Shrewsbury, Mass. And Brattleboro, Vermont, where a plastic-only bag ban went into effect, the majority of the community has converted to handleless paper bags. They went back in time 40 years, and only about 15% of those communities has converted to heavy-duty reusables. In Suffolk County and Long Beach, New York, where fee legislation charging a nickel each for paper and plastic went into effect last year, 80% of the community converted to heavy-duty reusables. Warwick, New York is preparing to pass the same. Several other communities are discussing hybrid legislation that bans plastic bags and charges this fee for paper bags so as to discourage the use of both. And while we support statewide legislation that takes the noble intent and levels the playing field for all businesses and all consumers so as not to create inconsistencies from one municipality to the next, we acknowledge the state's hesitation and believe that the best crafted legislation will come from collaborative efforts through engaged municipalities that take all of the details into consideration and apply them accordingly. Simply enough, those whose results most effectively diminish the disposable waste stream will serve as models for the state. Some retailers avoid this issue like the plague, as if it will go away. Others quietly accept whatever legislation is proposed, however incomplete or unsustainable, without sharing their perspective or the valuable insight of their experience. As integral partners to the execution of whatever legislation is ultimately passed, we think it's important to speak our truths and contribute to its crafting. Ultimately, the focus must be on diminishing the use of disposable bags, both paper and plastic, and how best to decrease reliance on them in favor of heavy-duty reusable alternatives, whether bags, boxes, totes, what have you. And we at Price Chopper Market 32 are committed to working with engaged elected officials, consumers, and environmental advocates on a long-term solution that we can all be proud of.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Mason from Cloverdale, New York, and I'm not a great public speaker, so bear with me, please. I have no doubt that everyone who's spoken today wants to be responsible and wants to be responsible to our environment. I think a lot of people have offered good suggestions. I like hearing about changing behaviors. I just got back from the United Kingdom, and if you need a bag, you pay for it, which reminds you of two things. One, you don't want to spend the money for a bag, and two, remember your cloth bag or whatever you have at home the next time. So I don't subscribe to going back to paper because I know it's not easily recycled. I don't like the idea of plastic bags because I think we're a nation of convenience. I think this is part of the problem. What we don't see that affects us, we tend to ignore. And certainly the research shows that these plastics break down over time into tiny, tiny pieces that are no bigger than a sesame seed, and they're in the air we breathe. They're found in our lungs, they're found in our soil, they're found in our water, they're found in the food we eat and the seafood, they're found in animals, they're found in our wastewater systems, they're in our sewer pipes, and they're in the ocean. In fact, I think the floating debris is bigger than 2 times the size of Texas right now in that island of trash that's between Hawaii and California. So I think that it's kind of indicative, I think, of the United States to stay with convenience and what's easy, but I think we have to remember that this is affecting all of us, and it's affecting us, again, in what we eat and what we breathe. And so just because we can't see it doesn't mean it isn't a problem, and I'm hopeful that we'll come to some kind of solution where we can begin to change people's behaviors on this. Thanks.
Thank you. And you spoke very well. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Diane Collins, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I'm going to take a different slant. I'm going to talk about the momentum that's going on in our communities about caring for the environment. For example, Queensbury was recently called a clean energy community. They qualified to have that name. Glens Falls did too, and Glens Falls right now has got a task force made up of elected officials and citizens working on the steps to become a climate smart community. Caring about the environment has become the norm here. SUNY Adirondack is now putting on a film series about the environment. I think I was expecting a louder outcry about banning plastic bags, and I think that's not happening. People know the incredible waste of these plastic bags and the damage to the environment. I would certainly be willing to be part of a task force helping to implement the ban. We've heard that it's a small action, but it does have a big impact. That's not a small thing. It will increase environmental awareness as we educate the public as to why this is happening. And everyone will be able to participate in caring about the environment. We have no way of that can't be underestimated. If there's a ban on plastic bags about caring for the environment, people will feel a part of it. And instead of being a deterrent to tourists, we can highlight why we're doing this. We care about the environment, and this is a step we can take. I think it might increase tourism. They'll be proud to come up here, and we'll be proud to have them here. We can work together. As I said, that would be a positive on a regional task force with the public and with some of the supervisors to come up with approaches to enacting the ban. So I urge you all to vote for the plastic bag ban, to ride the horse in the direction that it's going. The trail may be bumpy, but it's going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Good morning. Michael Biddle, Adirondack Regional Chambers of Commerce, right here in Glens Falls, New York. Again, as I saw Wednesday night, a lot of great passion, a lot of great information in this room this evening. And I want to thank Don Lehman and the Post-Star for their reporting of this great issue. A couple pieces that may have been missed on Wednesday was myself personally am a huge proponent and a huge user, as well as my wife Wendy, of reusable bags. Huge fan of the environment, being personally a hunter and a fisherman. The environment is paramount. And something that I did leave out on Wednesday is there's one thing I love about Warren County and Washington County and Saratoga. There's so much firepower and brain power here of talent. And I just love that. So when I traveled to New York City, I'd put this group against anybody in the world. One thing that I did leave out along those lines is when I had worked for a company called the King Arthur Flour Company, I headed all the environmental initiatives for the company. Those included working with our farmers to reduce water intake
and output by 80%, thus mitigating the fall and drop in the Olagala aquifer in the middle of the country. That was working with transportation to make sure that our environmental input on transportation and energy costs were cut by 60%. We need to save our environment. Where's Miss Hogan that spoke earlier? Is she still here? Definitely need to watch out for the future of our planet. The challenges that the Chamber has with this is that there's great intent on this bill. I don't think anybody in this room is against the environment. I may repeat a little bit about what's said here, so please bear with me, and I'll get through this quickly. Everyone in this room has the best of intent for the environment. The other night I had mentioned the words picking winners and losers in this bill. The reason I did that is because there's carve-outs. That's been mentioned here by a couple people. There's carve-outs to certain segments of the population as far as businesses go. That, to me, is picking winners and losers. Either the bags are bad or the bags are good. That's one. Two, and it's been brought up, but that's consumer behavior. If we ban these plastic bags, we're expecting people that had never used reusable bags to use them a minimum of 133 times. I brought one today. I didn't want to give a shout out in a bad advertisement to Blue Shield Northeast New York, so I didn't put that up there. Did I just say? Sorry about that. So with that reusable bag, to take the footprint off of 1/2 mil non-reusable bag, you have to use that 133 times to overcome that. On the thicker bags, which are part of the bill, you have to reuse it at least 5 times. We're talking about changing human behavior, which Miss Mona Golub says is really difficult, and through her extensive research, I think you have over 105 stores. 130, okay. Huge partner at King Arthur, that's why I remember. 130 stores. Extensive research that even through bag bans, 90% of human behavior doesn't change. It's a difficult thing to do, and something that people like us that have passion with reusable bags, we have to be careful that not everybody may think that way or go with the same behavior. The bottom line is the current law, unfortunately, while has good intent, does more harm to the environment than good. My sister here, who went to temple last Wednesday, spoke about Yom Kippur and the meaning of reflection, repentance, and atonement. I totally agree with you. But as the prophet Isaiah says, don't replace bad with bad. Please, look at this bill hard. Look at other solutions. Utilize Stewart's, Price Chopper, the Chamber, and our 800 members to get you to a better place. With that, I'd urge you to look at things like minimal recycled content in a bag, something that we did at King Arthur Flour, something that can make a difference and still overcome that tough United States consumer habits, which are so tough to change. They just are difficult to change, even with the best of intent. So I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for your consideration on this issue.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Phil Wetterston from Queensbury. At the last meeting I spoke of some environmental and health concerns related to plastic waste in Warren County. I mentioned the fact that Darren Freshwater Institute does not currently measure for plastics content in Lake George as part of its Jefferson Project initiative. Although it may not appear at first glance that there is plastic in the lake, you all remember the quote from the diver that I quoted last meeting. I also spoke of microplastics, which are remnants of larger plastic polymers that, while invisible to the human eye, make their way into our bodies and the surrounding ecosystems, similar to BPA and other molecular health concerns. Ultimately, environmental and health-related issues are my own motivation for supporting this ban. I understand that others have different priorities and perspectives, namely those with an economic stake in Warren County. I'm here today to address some of the concerns that those individuals have shown about the ban. Before I begin, I would like to say that I don't intend to disparage anyone with oppositional views, both today and at the last meeting. Many individuals have made points that I, and presumably others, had not considered in forming our own opinions. I'm here now because I did some research, and I would like to offer counterpoints and hopefully expand the conversation on 5 of those concerns mentioned at the last hearing. First, this ban will result in higher costs for businesses and retail owners. One thing I found was overlooked at the previous meeting was the fact that selling reusable bags can function as an additional source of revenue for local businesses. The burden to business owners will not be the difference in price between paper and plastic bags and their reusable alternatives. I spent 5 minutes searching online, mind you 5 minutes, and I don't own a retail store, so I'm not incentivized to look for a better deal. I found reusable bags on bagsandbulk.com that could be purchased for volumes of 100 at 59 cents per bag. Sure, this is more expensive at plastic bags, but unlike their plastic counterparts, these can be sold for $1 to $2 per unit. That's 66 cents at that price, if you sell all 100 bags for $1.25 a piece, you would earn 66 cents per bag. This is an excellent way to offset the added costs associated with switching to reusable bags. Some might say I'm not focusing on paper. I looked for grocery paper bags with handles, so the heavy-duty, large-handled paper bags. I found them for 59 cents per bag, and as mentioned, the 66 cents profit margin on reusable bags would be a great way to offset this for local businesses. Second, we depend on tourism. Tourist dollars will flee to neighboring counties if we pass this ban. From the business perspective, and I don't intend to single anyone out, I would simply like to bring up the success of the individual at the last hearing who said he ran a beef jerky outlet. He boasted the second highest sales in the country of any firm within that institution, and his executives were wondering, where the heck is Lake George? First and foremost, consumers come for the lake. This will not change because of a bag ban. Companies will not pull out of the county because they know as soon as they do, 5 others would be fighting to take their place with all the revenue potential. It's the same for local businesses and regional and international corporations. You can earn money by selling reusable bags. I think a great point brought up earlier was this could also function as a way to advertise Warren County tourism to other regions of the country. From the consumer perspective, Warren County is an isolated retail hub. For a shopping experience similar to the outlets, you would have to drive over 30 minutes from the hotels on Lake George to Wilton Mall. Even still, the nearest outlet stores are in Manchester, Vermont. Third, this ban is going to be felt as a tax on the consumer. Now, bear with me, but according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average U.S. household spends $550 on groceries per month, which equates to about $135 per week. Let's estimate worst case scenario for reusable bags. Let's say you get a bad price and you buy a bag for $2 a piece and you go through about 10 a year, so $20 over the course of a year. These are cotton bags, mind you, but still they can be used many, many times. Over the course of a year, this $20 would spread out to only about 38 cents on your average trip to the grocery. Mind you, 38 cents means different things to different people, but in the grand scheme of things, it is a minimal addition to any grocery budget. And again, this would only add $20 over the course of a year to the consumer. Fourth, reusable bags are a health concern. They lead to the spread of bacteria and E. coli. Bed sheets can cause eczema and spread MRSA if you don't wash them. Same with clothing and dish rags. You can wash your clothes, you can wash your bed sheets, you wash your reusable bags. You can do so either in the washing machine or if you're uncomfortable with doing so, with soap and water. Fifth, Mr. Patel from the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce made the comment at the last hearing that with regard to the bag ban, we should let the market and citizens move the ball. I don't claim to be an expert on the Warren County business climate like Mr. Patel. However, I recently completed my undergraduate degree in economics, and I have all the theory he is referencing fresh in mind, so bear with me for a moment. So, capitalist economic theory suggests that there are economically efficient levels of pollution. These are impossible to quantify at the end of the day. However, these levels fall to area-specific marginal cost-benefit analysis. In other words, if your local community is spending $400,000 to save an additional 1 pound of waste from entering the environment, you would say that the cost of that initiative outweighs the benefit. However, in most scenarios, this economically efficient level in communities is above what is considered to be socially optimal. Socially optimal is an admittedly subjective concept and differs between individuals. However, the idea of guiding the market in this theoretical area is why we see real-world policies such as emissions taxes and miles per gallon requirements on cars. The issue with this theory in the instance of Warren County is that the market requires perfect information to reach a truly optimal point. In other words, we would have to have perfect knowledge of the exact benefits and consequences associated with plastic bag use for us to arrive at a truly optimal market level. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, scientific organizations within Warren County simply do not have data on plastic levels in our environment. We cannot be sure at this moment how bad the problem might be. And with regard to cost, I have shown that cost to businesses and consumers might not be as daunting as people thought at first glance. All of this being said, I do not believe that the plastic bag is the greatest threat to human environmental health in the county. However, I think we would all agree that we would be making the ecologically safe decision by implementing the ban. People earlier tonight have spoken of the iceberg, and I think shaving the tip off that iceberg, while not the most meaningful in sense of the gross size of the iceberg, is a very symbolic and important step in laying the first brick on the road to a cleaner future. With what I have presented today, I think it makes perfect sense to implement this ban in Warren County. Retailers will not suffer from decreased profits, tourists will not flock to neighboring counties to make their purchases, households will not bear the burden of a substantial bag tax, and human health will not deteriorate from reusable bag usage. All the while, we would be undoubtedly reducing the amount of plastic making its way into our bodies and our ecosystems, even if we are unsure as to the exact magnitude. I said this at the previous hearing. Warren County should take the lead on this issue because, quite frankly, Warren County contains some of the most beautiful landscape in the entire United States, and we should not gamble with the place we are fortunate enough to call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Tough act to follow. I wasn't going to speak because I already spoke on Wednesday, but there's been a couple of things this morning that have been said that I would just like to address. Catherine Atherton, Queensbury. It really, I mean, we talked about behavior a lot. It really would be terrific if recycling, for instance, if we tried to work more on recycling would work. But we've been trying to recycle plastic for 20 years, 25, 30 years, and according to statistics, only 5 to 15% of that plastic does get recycled. And that's after a huge amount of education for people. We still are just so addicted to convenience that we're not paying that much attention. And I know change isn't easy, and I can vouch for that for the transition working over 3 years on this ordinance. We showed Bagot, which actually, if anyone has not seen that film, Bagot, I highly, highly recommend it, just like was mentioned with the article in the National Geographic. This is a film that everybody should see. And I do actually have a couple of copies if people want to borrow it. So yeah, education is very important. We've tried that. We've worked on recycling. It would be great if people would just take their responsibility for their environment and do the right thing, but they don't. Single use does have a cost. Single-use plastic bags, all plastic has a cost, but and it's passed on to the consumer. If you don't think this affects you, it does, because you're paying for it. Big money's involved with plastic. There was one comment made by Mr. Biddle that last time that certain states like Iowa and Ohio, and I can't remember who else, you said that had imposed a bad ban or a reduction in bags, but then rescinded it. I did do some research, and I don't find that actually accurate. What happened was certain municipalities within the state may have instituted bag bans, and the state then made a law that no one could do it. No one could have bag bans. Very hard. Say that 10 times fast. So, it's not that the whole state imposed it and then it was rescinded. It was a couple of municipalities and then the state, because they had pressure from the bag industry mainly, just made a law that nobody could have a bag ban.
again, I will reiterate what I said on Wednesday, which is it just makes no sense to me whatsoever and should not make any sense to anyone that we are using a non-renewable resource that took hundreds of thousands of years to create, and then we make products, single-use plastic bags being one of them, that we use once or twice and then we throw away, and we all know that it doesn't really go away because it just breaks down into tiny particles and ends up into our waters and into the air and into the fish, and we eat the fish. So it all has an effect on us. Warren County is not an island. We are not the pristine place of beauty where only borders, where only plastic exists outside of our borders. We're part of the world. We're part of the region. We're part of the community. Yes, we have a beautiful place, and we want to keep it that way. But we are not isolated. We are not an island. So I urge you to move forward on single-use plastic bag reduction, whether that's a ban or some other method. We discussed this as part of the transition over and over and again, and in fact our ordinance that we proposed to the town last year was to charge for a bag. But the county decided that that's not something they wanted to do, that they wanted to have a ban because it's probably simpler, I suppose. So please move forward on something. Do not just put this aside and put it on the back burner and do nothing about it in the long term. I really urge you to get the community involved and to do something about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Last chance. Then I will close the public hearing. Excuse me. I didn't see your hand, sir. Please, by all means.
Tony Kravitsky, Glens Falls. My plan from listening Wednesday and today was to distill something that would be a real zinger, and I can't. I really can't. There's too many variables, there's too many implications. It's all been said. We've all heard it. I did a simple search this morning, and there's any number of studies done by Cuomo from New York State, done by the DEC about this whole issue, if you want to look at it. Catherine just said, Warren County is not an isolated, pristine area of the world, but it is a global situation. And as has been said, changing behavior is very, very, very difficult. We are all very habitual in our thoughts and actions. We like to think that we're making decisions every day, but we're really pattern people. It's human nature not to think too far ahead. And what's really needed is a paradigm shift away from the petrochemical industry. And I understand that this issue is a very tiny facet of this global plastic problem. But some old Chinese dude once said, the longest journeys start with single step. So please, for our health, our future on this singular lifeboat that we're calling the Earth, let's pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I missed you. Now I will officially close the public hearing. Thank you. For those that want to leave, we'll take 5 minutes without objection, just to allow any of the audience that wish to leave now. Please. Supervisors could take their chairs, please.
Yes, okay, fine.
Sure. You never.
And I should add for the record that all correspondence, both pro and con, will be entered into the record and copies distributed and I believe copies have already been distributed to all the supervisors. And with that, I'll close that public hearing if I have not already, and then move on to the next public hearing, and I would ask the clerk to read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of proposed local law number 5 for the year 2018 entitled A Local Law Amending the Warren County Occupancy Tax as authorized by Act of the New York State Legislatures, Chapters 422, and the laws of 2003. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on August 17, 2018, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on September 21, 2018 at 10 a.m. at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center, Route 9, Queensboro, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 5 for the year 2018 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Thank you. I would ask anyone in the audience wishing to address the board regarding this proposed local law. Absolutely.
Gina Minster, Executive Director of the Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce. We applaud the Finance and Legislative Rules Committee and the County Attorney's Office on the writing of this amendment. We believe that this is a great first step in us working with short-term vacation rentals, and with the goal of leveling the playing field of the short-term vacation rentals with those who are currently abiding by the Warren County legislative laws within the hospitality and accommodations folks. Working in the future, we hope that we will all work together on what the next steps will be once this amendment takes place in terms of regulating those short-term vacation rentals, and again, leveling the playing field for fairness across the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Mr. Whitehead.
Yes, I don't have any issue with this other than it does change a definition that was put in there by the state in 2003, and I believe that the state would be the one that should change this definition. And I don't know, it shouldn't be a problem for them to do that. We do have Betty Little, we do have Dan Steck. It would be nice if they would look at things like this. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Not this time? Okay. Then I'll close the public hearing. All right, given the time, I'll keep my report short. On August 20, 21, and 27, attended numerous committee meetings. A lot of work being done by all of you in committee. It's a fantastic thing to really watch and participate in. On August 7th, I attended the Joint Personnel and Higher Education meeting along with, of course, Washington County as SUNY ACC to have their capital plan presented to us and approved by committee, our committee and their committee. That afternoon, I attended the ribbon cutting for the Adirondack Hall, the new facility at ACC. And I have to tell you, if you have not been to that project, which of course we participated in funding, it is just a tremendous new facility for our college. I was joined there by Supervisor Sokol, Supervisor Garrity, and Supervisor McDivitt, and it was pointed out to me that Supervisor McDivitt was an all-star basketball player. Is that right, Peter?
I don't know if they used the word all-star. Was a co-captain, but all-star was not the word they used.
That was not the word. We like to think of it that way.
We do. Well, thank you.
Of course.
And so if you haven't, you can continue to say that if you don't.
And if you haven't been to see the new facility, it is just. I think we should be very proud of the team there at the college, their consultants, the board, the foundation for what they've done, and I really would encourage you to stop and take a look at it. On August 13, I attended the Shared Services meeting where we approved the Shared Services plan to be submitted to New York State. At that meeting, I applauded our county administrator and others for developing that plan on such a short timeline. And I think it's a plan that's really going to serve our municipalities very well and hopefully save a lot of money in the process. On August 18th, I went on a tour of Countryside along with Supervisor Frazier arranged it, and Supervisor Simpson. If you haven't been on a walkthrough on Countryside in recent times, I would encourage it. I think it's a marvelous facility. It seems to be well run, very clean. But like all capital items, all major items, it has its needs, and I'm sure that we'll be entertaining those as time goes on. That afternoon, I attended the EMS meeting. The EMS task force continues to work and plot its way along, collecting all kinds of very interesting and important information, which I think will aid us in future decision-making. August 19th, of course, we had the special board meeting and the public hearing. And then yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend the grand opening of the new Adirondack Information Center on the Northway, just north of 17. And if you haven't had a chance to stop and see that new visitor center, you really have to stop. It is a marvelous new facility, and perhaps some of the supervisors that were there, Ms. McDivitt, Ms. Hogan, Mr. Garrity, and others, Mr. Dickinson, perhaps could comment on that. But I was just, for me, it was just a tremendous asset to our region as a gateway along that corridor. And that concludes my report. Thank you. Report by committee chairman. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, like many others, have attended the majority of committee meetings this past month. And as many of this board understand, I'm not one to be bashful about making comments, but since I don't chair a committee, I will decline any further comment today. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you. Shared services, the county portion of that did not meet last month. I would like to make a comment, though, that Ryan has done an outstanding job from the state-mandated shared services aspect. We did have meetings to discuss different aspects of that, and I think he gets a big-time kudos for that. And just one other short comment, since we're so far behind, but that's a good thing in this case. I want to thank, and they're all gone now, but all the people who came and voiced their opinions today. If that isn't democracy at its very best, civil, well thought out, respectful of each person's viewpoint, that is what this country is all about. What I saw today and Wednesday night give me hope that we're on the right direction, at least here in Warren County, that we can work together and be civil with each other and still have differences of opinion. So I was so delighted and encouraged by what I heard today and Wednesday night. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to say I did happen to attend Ryan's presentation on the shared service, and Ms. Marr, I just want to say it was wonderful. I did enjoy it. And the last two meetings on the bag issue, it's really opened up my eyes to a lot of things, and I want to thank everybody that did participate and spoke. I took a lot of notes. So otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met on August 30th, and before you are resolutions 349, 350, and 377 through 383. I am looking for your approval on those. Just a few of those that I would like to make comments on are 379 is a resolution approving a settlement to a deed located in Warrensburg. In executive session, it was determined that all taxes, unpaid taxes, have been paid, and now it's necessary for this to be executed. So 382 is a resolution to pay pass-through taxes due on county railroad property. This is located in Saratoga County, and this is an amount not to exceed $50,000, which should be enough to cover the delinquent taxes as well as school taxes. And 383, finally, is on September 7th, we had a joint personnel and finance meeting at SUNY Adirondack, as well as the ribbon cutting ceremony. But they have done fantastic work there, and I've been a resident here for 40 years now. And to see what ACC has progressed to, I just give great kudos to everyone involved, even Washington County as well. I don't want to exclude them. But I also was quite impressed and actually energized by the attendance Wednesday night as well as today. It does show that there's great interest, and it does show that things need to be, I won't go into my comments at this point, but there are some great ideas out there, and I think we should either, like the one woman said, get a task force going or get some kind of a workshop going and see what the next step would be to do to go forward. But I reserve my other comments. But at this point, can I have a...
Absolutely, without objection. Mike Spahn, County Treasurer.
Good morning, everybody. Some good news. Sales tax is still up. We're still just a tick over 5% from collections the previous year, which is great news. Standard & Poor's has continued our excellent bond rating at AA stable, which is also good news, although I beg that we don't go into any more debt right now. Yesterday we had our annual independent audit review, which was attended by the chairman of the board and some other people and the budget officer. And I'm proud to say that no deficiencies were found, which basically means that our records are accurate and a true representation of the financial state of the county. You will all be receiving a copy of the final audit before the end of the month. I'm not sure exactly when we'll get it printed, but by law we're supposed to have it out by the end of this month. You will all receive it. On occupancy tax, we're still way up over 20% on collections, which is phenomenal. The new person that you allowed me to get in my office to work on occupancy tax started on the 27th of August. They've already conducted 4 on-site audits and several desk audits. They've found one property in those audits that actually should not be collecting occ tax. It was a small operation. However, they did find 2 properties that have not been paying, so it was worth the trip. We've also discovered during an audit someone that was considerably underpaying, so it's already paying dividends for that position, and I thank you for allowing me to get that person. Any other questions?
Any questions for the treasurer?
Yes.
Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you. So she conducted 4 audits. 2 were not paying.
No. One person of the 4 on-site audits, one person should not have been collecting. Okay. So we're removing them from the list. The other 3 went fine. On one of the desk audits, we determined that somebody was way underpaying. Okay. And while they were out in the field, stumbled across a couple of sites that were not paying that should be. So we are now chasing them down.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out the numbers. So there's actually 6 audits or reviews.
Actually, we've had about 8 desk audits.
So 2 weren't paying, 1 was underpaying, 1 shouldn't have been paying. So 4 out of 8. Wow, that's kind of an eye-opener for me, that there's so much discrepancy out there in following this tax law. Thank you.
Supervisor Garrity.
Yeah, my question is, what do you do, Mike, about the person who overpaid and the ones who haven't paid, and they really built the county for 2 years?
Well, the one that...
Do we have anything in our written...
Well, we're working on a policy, but we've got a good relationship going right now with the county attorney's office to collect the back if there's something has not been collected properly. As a matter of fact, we're working on about 5 or 6 right now, I think, with Amy, and we've got a good working relationship going there, and I think we've got that under control. As soon as we get all the bugs out of that, then it's going to be put into an actual policy. We're going to write it up. As far as the person that paid that shouldn't have, it's about $300, and we're refunding their money.
Thank you.
Supervisor Dickinson.
20%, it's up 20% overall for the year?
actually a little more than that, but I'm scared to say the exact figure.
Makes me nervous, Michael, I'll tell you that.
What's that?
It's a good thing, but it makes me nervous.
Yeah, it makes me nervous too.
That's a lot.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Wild.
Sorry for the late harmony. Mike, when you do your audits, how many years back do you go? You find someone that made some mistakes.
We're just looking at 17 right now.
Any plans to go further back?
We'll see. We're trying to get, this person is just getting started. We're just getting our feet wet in this. So we're trying to get a system working. And what the thought process is if 17 works out okay, we'll leave you alone. If 17 looks bad, then we're going to start going back.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
And just one more item, please. So we've still had ongoing discussions regarding the Rich Air negotiations. We had a phone, three-way, four-way phone conversation, and maybe Supervisor McDivitt's going to mention a little more. He's kind of been on the lead lately coming down to the close here, but we have taken all of your suggestions and implemented them, so hopefully I think we've come to a resolution that might be enacted on next month, hopefully. I think I've heard that Mary is doing some work on it as well right now, so hopefully at the next committee meeting that Supervisor Diamond chairs will have something.
Just let me quickly respond. I know the information has been passed on to legal, and it's in their hands, and I think the next step was to get an agreement with Mr. Skimmerhorn, kind of a simple agreement, an initial step that to enable us to proceed. So is that kind of?
Mary? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been directed to put together a list of all the financial agreements, which we will present at the next committee meeting, which is October 1st. And then based on the committee pleasure, we'll move forward from there.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Man of the moment and the time of the year, Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Budget Committee did not meet in the last month. However, myself and the County Administrator and the Budget Team have met with each department and their corresponding chair of their committee. Currently, they submitted their budgets by last Friday, the 14th. I'm in the process of reviewing what's been submitted. The expense is up 5.35%, about $2.3 million. So in the coming week or so, or 2 weeks, each department will go back to their respective committee. Everyone will have everyone that's on the committee, and at the meetings we'll have a chance to hear what's been budgeted and what isn't budgeted, and I'll be there to listen to that, and we'll go from there. And we'll be, as I review this, I saw a big pair of scissors this morning. I was thinking might come in handy, but anyways, we'll have to get it down to a reasonable level, and I believe we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Supervisor Hyde.
No report.
Supervisor Garrity.
We have 3 resolutions from personnel, and 2 of them deal with the new rates for the insurance, health insurance and dental, and the Medicaid costs. So I'd ask your approval on those. Attended many community meetings along with my colleagues. Also, I want to thank the board for allowing us to attend the White House conference along with the New Jersey representatives on August 22nd and 23rd. On the 23rd, we had about a 4-hour meeting with different members of the White House staff. It was truly interesting, opened our eyes from anything from the opioid epidemic to farming to education. We were there was about 100 of us there from the 2 states. It was very, very well attended and very good conference. I mean, I got a lot out of it, and I would recommend it. I think this is the first time they've ever done it. We were the 35th and 36th states to go there. I would recommend anybody gets a chance, you really should go there. Not just because you get a chance to do a tour of the White House and see all the stuff that Washington, D.C. has to offer. It's just learning the process and talking with people. And we also got a tour of the Capitol the afternoon before we left, so that was interesting. And normally I would wait to announcements, but I know most of you will probably beat feet out of here. The long-awaited countryside sewer project, the pipe will start going in the ground on Monday. Now that poses some challenges to Warrensburg because the weekend is the garage sale, which we probably get 50,000 people there. And but we are going to start work Monday. I told our crews once the machine is there, which is already on site, we're going to start drawing the pipes underground on Monday. Hopefully the project will go as planned. It's a big project for us, and especially with all the people coming into town on Friday and Saturday. And so if you want to come up and look at it, that's fine, but you'll get stuck in traffic. But thank you all for allowing us to go to the White House. I mean, I found it very enlightening, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
The other thing is, too, I think Matt will touch on it. Some of the other committees or some of the other organizations we represent, like APA Local Government and AATV, we're getting more active on AATV, which represents 105 communities within the Blue Line. And we met with the new acting APA commissioner last Friday, and it was telling because she was late coming to our meeting because she had no cell phone to find her way to Hadley, New York. So, we were able to make our case. I think we're being able to make our case as part of our residents here in the park. I think it's important, and those are some of the things we do other than the numerous committee meetings we attend. So I had a good month. August was a good month, tiring, but it was a good month for us.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Criminal Justice and Public Safety met on August 27th. Before you are 8 resolutions, number 353 through 359. 3 are from the District Attorney, 1 is from the Public Defender, and 4 from the Sheriff Office. The 3 from the DA are in regards to grant funding to the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. The 1 from the Public Defender is for extension of agreement with a law library subscription. You will note that the dates of that have been modified so that it follows our fiscal year. A little bit of organization there. And the 4 from the Sheriff Office are for continuation of a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Homeland Security for a multi-link subscription, communications, no cost to us. Agreement with Nemur Ford for services to cars, agreement with Bolton Central School for school resource officers. This one's for $30,000. Next year we can expect that these agreements will be a little bit more when the school districts are able to budget for uniforms and training, etc. And the 4th one is introducing local law number 6 of 2018. It's basically just changing what we call the employees from deputy sheriff to patrol officers and their supervisory titles, associated supervisory titles. Also would like to report, Mr. Chairman, that as you had mentioned on Tuesday, September 18th, the EMS task force met. The EMS coordinators from the Office of Emergency Services presented budget comparisons of the 5 EMS squads in the northern part of the county. And the task force reviewed those numbers, had a good discussion. We are moving forward with our program. Also, if I may, Supervisor Loeb is not here. He's chairman of Support Services. I'm vice, so I'll just say he's not here because he is doing first aid relief in the Carolinas now, and there are no pending resolutions from his committee.
Thank you. Supervisor McDevitt.
Thank you. Let me just, if I can, please echo the chairman's comments relative to the Exit 17 Visitor Center yesterday. I was clearly the most underdressed of the supervisors attending yesterday, doing my best to embarrass the group. I had Bermudas on, and everyone else was looking rather professional. So I stood in the back and I observed. It is without a doubt one of probably the most spectacular visitor center I've ever seen. From the in entree into the Adirondacks, set the stage for tourism, and hopefully encourage people that they're coming to a special place and that they ought to maybe spend a longer amount of time. But from kiosks to audiovisual to graphics, vending machines that sell only New York products, Nettle Farms, an organization that we have helped through our LDC that operate a wonderful goat farm in Thurman, and those products coming out of the vending machine. So again, New York products, okay. A building that in terms of certification, I've never quite understood, but I've heard the term used before where someone says LEEDs certification. I mean, that's an environmental statement that basically says that this physical structure incorporates all of the latest environmental technology and meets the higher standards. So that building that certainly incorporates that. An electrical vehicle charging station. As I exited, there were two of the super deluxe electrical power stations. My son, does this for Apex Solar Power, but he told me, he said, "Dad, those chargers that are on at that visiting center, those are the true super deluxes." I mean, and there are. As I was exiting, there was this four-door maroon vehicle, and there was a gentleman with an iPad in the back of it. A beautiful car. He had Connecticut plates on it, and I could not recognize the car. And the reason I couldn't recognize the car because it was a Tesla. So it was this gentleman was charging his Tesla, had gotten the word that that there's a charging station in our area. So it's incorporating a new technology in terms of maybe where we're going as a country in terms of how we transport ourselves. Electric vehicles are going to be much more common as the years go by. So again, I think a showcase. I think the current administration in Albany has got to be given credit for recognizing that tourism is indeed a major piece of revenue for municipal as well as state government. So it was. I'm glad I was invited, and I'm sure we all share in our perception of the building. And I would encourage everyone to go visit it just to see it. I think they'll be impressed.
Thank you, Peter. And let's not forget also a boat inspection wash station is part of the program as well. No, that's all right.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I do not chair a committee and do not have a committee report. Thank you.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't chair a committee, but I would like to, again, reiterate I was very impressed with the turnout Wednesday evening as well as today, and I wanted to take this opportunity to inform or remind the public that they're invited to all of our committee meetings, and there's a time at the beginning of those meetings for their input, comments, concerns, or just generally to get some information to us. Certainly educational, and looking forward to carrying this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health, Human, and Social Services Committee met on August the 21st. As a result of those meetings, we have 5 resolutions. The first one is 362, which amends a resolution which amended an agreement with KMD Monitoring Services to provide electronic monitoring services for juveniles. 364 just authorized an agreement with the BOCES for the Youth Educational Program Service for the Workforce Investment Act Youth Employment Program. 364 authorizes submission of the grant application through the New York Connect Expansion Enhancement Program. 365 is extending an agreement with Parsons Child and Family Center for home-based crisis intervention services. And 366 is amending an agreement with Northeast Parent and Child Society to provide specialized mental health respite services to the Office of Community Services. So we would appreciate your support on those. I'd like to just make a couple of comments. I attended the Summer Youth Picnic last month, which was a success as usual, and I think that Mr. Hunzinger and his staff do a wonderful job with that program, so I'd like to just give him a lot of credit for that. But then I'd also like to say that I sat in on these budget meetings with the department heads, and I just feel they do a tremendous job of working very hard to keep those budgets down. Frank, they're probably going to be disappointed, though, when you go back and say you have to cut here, but I think they definitely look out for the best interest of Warren County, and they try to come up with some innovative ways to save money but still attain the goals that they have set. But I want to make sure they get credit for the hard work that they do on those budgets. And thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. DPW met twice this month. The first meeting was our normal meeting, and out of that meeting, we have resolution numbers starting with 368 through 372, which I'm sure Supervisor Garrity would be in support of 368, which is the directional boring contract. So I urge everyone's support on these resolutions. The August 30th meeting was to discuss the ongoing issue with the railroad in Warren County and moving the stuff off the rails that is not Warren County's property. And our legal team is working on making sure that happens as timely as possible with our railroad attorney that we've contracted. I also am very thankful to the board for the opportunity to go to Washington, and I had never been to Washington, and so I was pretty intimidating, but once I got there, I have to tell you that it's not intimidating. The people that we spoke to were very helpful. They gave us their contact information for each of the different departments that we may need to access, and they encourage us to involve them. So if we have a problem, we know who to reach out to, and that was something that I had never experienced and never thought that I'd ever experience from our government. So I am very grateful to have that opportunity, and I do, along with Kevin, encourage everybody that's a place you should definitely go and being an elected official. Also this morning, I'd like to thank everybody's supervisor there, Supervisor Driscoll, Supervisor Sokol, Supervisor Thomas, myself. We were at the ribbon cutting at the Cornell Cooperative greenhouse. And I'll tell you, I have never seen such professionally grown plants as they had. They were just impeccable plants. So everybody on the board should stop there today or tomorrow and pick up their mums and flowers, because it is just amazing. But it's just a testament to what that organization is all about and what they do and how they're integrated into our community, and they're a great asset. So with that, one more thing on broadband and cellular. I think Supervisor Garrity had touched on that. That's something we are working as diligently as we can to solve this problem in the Adirondacks and in our county with cellular and broadband. It is critical to public safety. We've heard the stories of the processes we have to go through to get towers through the Adirondack Park Agency, and we're working hard on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no committee reports, but a couple of remarks with your permission.
Absolutely, without objection. Absolutely.
Thank you. I did attend the EMS. Oh, am I doing better, Brad? I can't be heard apparently. I did attend the EMS meeting, and I did want to say thank you to Brian and Mickey and their team for all of the very hard work that they've done digging into those numbers and presenting us with presentations. It's been a tremendous amount of work, and it shows, and they're really, really doing a great job. I also attended the Youth Bureau meeting, and we recapped the summer recreation programs. I can't stress enough how impressed I am with how many youth are being served and the hard work that's going on with that committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson.
I chair 2 committees, and again, according to the cat and hat, I got nothing. But I do have a couple comments. Like a lot of you, was very impressed with the 2 public hearings. A great number of people spoke. They were all well spoken. They all had points, pro and con, and I did take notes of some of the things they brought up that I would like to look into further. Secondly, and they pretty much covered this, the rest area is something to see. You really need to go there. You could actually go there and have lunch if you got enough money. They have sandwiches from Samantha. They have my favorite lunch, ice cream sandwich from Dandy's Ice Cream. They have stuff from Oscar. They have stuff from everywhere in the Adirondack, and it's just unbelievable what they've done. And I would like to thank Gina Metzger, who bolted. She was in charge of the vending at that facility. And it was a tremendously difficult and big job to do, especially with somebody with no vending experience. And she's done it to the chamber. They presently have 4 employees to maintain the facilities. They have all kinds of programs there. All of the vendors will be getting records of how much of the material is moving and what's moving and what's not. And it's just a great facility. They've done a lot of things there to see and a lot to do. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism is going to meet on October 2nd. We haven't met since the last meeting, so everything is running fine there. But I have a few comments. Number one, the Tourism Center. Everybody spoke about it. I think the sign out front should be gateway to the Adirondack Tourism Facility. Phenomenal. And since I like food, like Mr. Dickinson, because we were by the machines the most, you have to go look at those machines. They were made specially for the products that we have here to be packaged so that they come out of a machine. So there's a lot of work put into that project. Much as sometimes we all say about our governor, he takes care of our county. And we have to give a lot of kudos to Betty Little because she stayed on it and got that project done. You'd be amazed. All of you are going to be amazed at what you see at that center. If you have time to stop there, it's probably one of the nicest in the whole state of New York. So we should be proud to have it there. As far as that, again, the EMS squad, Mr. Leggett, thank you for inviting me. I think that was very knowledgeable what's going on, and I hope we can put it together and get it going the right way. Mr. Ryan, the shared services, I hope that's not all the things that's on your desk right there, all the paperwork to it. But that was a great meeting, and I think you're moving this county forward. And there was one other thing I just, yes, my 2 previous supervisors mentioned our trip to D.C. I'm surprised they didn't harass my backside.
I left it out.
I was the only one that didn't get through security at the White House.
Everywhere we went.
I thought it was because I was Italian, but it was because, and they emphasized so much when we filled out that form to get our security, make sure everything is right. And I really worked hard at doing it. I even had my Social Security wrong because I put dashes between it, and then it says don't put dashes, so I had to change that. But the wind-up is I had an old post office box, which my business is, on my license. It's for my business. But I put my personal supervisor post office box on my application, and that's what they yanked me out of the line. I had to stand there for 10 minutes until they had approved who I was. So, but we did have a great time. It was one of the best experiences I've had other than going on a vacation or something, but I think everybody should go there. And we had a great time, the three of us, especially when we went out to dinner, and it all cost us $100 for the meal we went to, but that was a great meal. So, but anyway, that's all I got to say.
We didn't put it on the calendar.
No, it wasn't on the county. No.
Mr. Swan, would you check?
No, it wasn't on the county. My bill came to $108. That's how much that meal was, and all I had was a steak.
I don't know why I got stuck with a taxi cab fare.
Yeah, you got
that was
No, great time. Thank you, Dennis. We had a great time.
Thank you, Gene. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Coming out of the Legislative and Rules Committee is Resolution 367 before you today. We had a public hearing on this, but this is basically deals with short-term vacation rentals. It includes a definition of short-term vacation rentals, and it assures that short-term vacation rentals will be subject to the county's occupation tax. So I appreciate your support in that matter. Yeah, and I also went to the Cornell Cooperative Expansion Golf Tournament. That was a great fundraiser for them up at Cronin's. It was beautiful. I think they still should give an award for high score. I'll work on that. I did go to the Visitor Center as the ribbon cutting, as Peter so aptly described it. It is a wonderful, beautiful facility, state-of-the-art. We need to do something about that picture of Fort William Henry, so it needs some tweaking. But also I'd like to point out that, talking about dress and everything else, that next weekend we have the world's largest garage sale up in Warrensburg, and they got a great deal on neckties. Just mentioning that. No, and as a member of the Shared Services Panel, I have to thank and give admiration for the efforts of Administrator Moore. And he basically pushed this through and assured the fruition of this effort, so he deserved that kudos. And in terms of the bags discussion, I mean, I thought that the two public hearings were very enlightening. I applaud Claudia for her effort in bringing this effort to the public's conversation. I think just the discussion of the issue in plastics in the environment and the harm that's causing, I think there's a great value in that. So we'll continue working in this direction, and I just want to applaud Claudia for her efforts. And thank you.
Thank you. Report of the County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, it's my privilege to recognize county employees who have achieved significant employment milestones this month. From the Sheriff's Department with 20 years of service, Patrol Sergeant Gregory Riley, and two individuals from Public Health, Diane DeCesar with 25 years and Dana Hall with 30 years. We appreciate your hard work and dedication, and we wish you continued success. Congratulations. In terms of my activities since the last board meeting, I'll go through some of what I've been up to. We had initial budget review. It began August 22nd and ran through September 6th. We had 34 separate meetings over 8 days. It was a very rewarding process. I've now experienced the budget review process in 3 out of 57 counties, and I can tell you that so far I'm very impressed with the process we have here. So I would like to thank Supervisor Thomas for his leadership, as well as the other employees that work hard on that budget review team. And the department heads, we asked them to think outside the box and to try to keep their net under a 2% increase. Most of them were able to do that, and some even came in with a decrease compared to this year's budget. So we really appreciated their work. I commend them all, and I'm looking forward to the committee review of these budgets, which will start next week. In addition to budget review, in late August, I had several meetings with our probation director, Bob Usey, regarding the Raise the Age financial instrument that he had to file with the state. Bob took the lead on this project. He worked with the DSS, the sheriff, the county attorney, the DA, the public defender, the assigned counsel administrator, and me. And I think Bob did a really nice job pulling that together. I want to thank him for his work on that, and he looks forward to continuing to update the Criminal Justice Committee on those efforts. I had a series of meetings in late August to firm up our employee and retiree health care renewal options with Yeager and Flynn, HR, and the Treasurer's Office. It ultimately resulted in the health insurance program that was adopted by the Personnel Committee on August 30th and which is before you today for your consideration. I'm happy to say that we've rerun the 2019 budget with the proposed new premium equivalents, and we were actually able to reduce our initial cost estimate by over $200,000. That's due to savings from the Humana Medicare Advantage plan for retirees, and we did negotiate a rate cap with Humana for 2020 that will help keep those premiums in check in the future. At the end of the day, we expect to spend roughly the same amount on health insurance next year as we're projecting for this year, and that's a great accomplishment considering the industry trend, which can be an increase of 10% or more per year. So I'd like to thank Yeager and Flynn, as well as our HR department and everybody who's worked hard to bring this to fruition. It's a good program. On Thursday, September 6th, I attended a planning meeting for this weekend's Balloon Festival, which was led by our Highway Superintendent, Kevin Hajos. It included representatives from many county departments. This is truly a team activity, and I thank Kevin for his leadership in pulling it together. On Wednesday, September 12th, I conducted 3 public hearings on the Warren County Shared Services Property Tax Savings Plan. The first was at 7:30 a.m., the second was at noon, and the last was at 6 p.m. And the following day, I was very pleased that the Shared Services Panel adopted this savings plan unanimously. We have 9 good initiatives. We're conservatively estimating that the 2019 savings will exceed $700,000, year 2 savings over $950,000, and reliable annual recurring savings of over $1 million in the out years. So it was a great exercise. Thanks again to all of you who helped participate in that. On Tuesday, September 18th, I had a conference call with the State Office of Indigent Legal Services in which we resolved several issues related to state reimbursements for the Public Defender's Office. I also attended the meeting held that day on EMS consolidation, which was very informative. And last but not least, I had a lengthy phone call with Mike Biddle, the new president and CEO of the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce, regarding ways that we can all work together moving forward. I think Mike's a good man. He's got a lot of energy and ideas for growing the regional economy, and I think he'll do a tremendous job and be a great partner for us. And yesterday, I attended a meeting with the county's outside auditors to discuss the 2017 audited financial statements. I'm pleased to say there were no findings, and the audit demonstrated that this county's financial health is well intact, and that we have a very strong system of financial controls. So kudos to Treasurer Mike Swan and your team for your hard work year in and year out in maintaining that. And that concludes my rather lengthy report, Mr. Chairman. My apologies.
No, not at all. Thank you. Report to County Attorney.
I apologize. This was clearly not a good month for me to finally do a report. But I have 3 items I thought were important to bring to your attention. The first is regarding resolution number 379, which is the deed to 30 River Street. I do want to confirm that that property is current and they have paid all their taxes. The second issue I would like to bring to your attention is that my first assistant county attorney, Amy Levine, who is sitting right behind me, had an opportunity to argue in front of the Appellate Division 3rd Department on September 6th. She did an excellent job. We didn't tell her beforehand, but we did watch her on the live stream. We didn't want her to be nervous. And if I encourage any of you who want to talk about that litigation to either come to me or Amy, and we can give you more specifics about it. And finally, I just wanted to tell you, you'll see a new person in my office yet again. I have hired someone to replace Joan Sadie when she retires in December. Joan is working with her 4 days a week so that we can hopefully have a smooth transition. And so far, she's working out excellently, so we're excited about that.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a question for the county attorney.
Yes.
With regard to the prior new person, when you were introducing him last month, I was under the mistaken impression that he was the new title person that we had recently authorized to be hired in that office. But I later learned that this person is, who is not an attorney, has been hired to fill the role of second assistant county attorney, which I thought was curious because just in March we had, as a board, unanimously agreed not to allow that office to create a new position of an intern at $48,000 for someone who was recently graduated but not yet an attorney. That was for $48,000, and then in that same month we also increased the second assistant attorney position from $52,000 to $60,567. So I'm wondering why we have this person working in the county attorney's office who is not an attorney, and we didn't want to pay that type of person even $48,000. Is there something going on? Is there another reason? And is this person making $60,000+ a year?
I would say we could have a quick response, but I'm sure the county attorney would be happy to meet with you at any time, and this could also be brought up in committee as well. I mean, there's no actionable item, but go ahead, Mary. Why don't you respond?
Sure. So I'm sure you can appreciate he took the bar in July, and we're waiting to hear his results. He should have them by October 20th. I was given permission by my committee, I believe in February, to fill that spot. Trying to do what was best for the county, I tried to drop that position to an intern position, but that was amended here at the board. So my only choice at that point was to put him in the second assistant county attorney spot. So that's basically my answer.
That was, so it fit your organizational structure?
It was the only thing I had left in my organizational structure, yes.
I thought the point of our discussion that day in March was that someone more qualified would be hired so that we do not have someone cutting their teeth in the county attorney's office.
I remember that discussion. I remember there was a proposal to reorganize the department and I believe save money, but it was rejected by committee. But the existing organizational structure for the county attorney's office, like all departments, is in place. Funds are appropriated and department heads fill those positions. That's what they do. Anything that's in the budget that we wish to remove, we can remove. Nothing keeps us from doing that. I'm not sure what more to say at this point, but I think that if you wish to continue to have the discussion in committee would be the place for it, and I'm sure that all of the committee will get to a good place. Your committee is for your department?
Support services.
So.
I definitely think that we should review that position, the structure there, and the salary for that position. And I also want to be sure that that individual is not meeting with our department heads and advising him alone. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome. Reading of resolutions. I'm sorry, excuse me. Reading of communications.
Warren County Probation Department monthly report of criminal and family workloads for July of 2018. Adirondack North Country Association 2017 annual report. National Grid semi-annual PCB inventory report dated August 31, 2018. We received a letter from the North Country Chamber of Commerce encouraging continued preservation of the Saratoga to North Creek rail line, as well as the extension to Tajas as commitments to the Adirondack transportation infrastructure. Letter from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation informing that on September 14, 2018, the Queensbury Hotel was added to the National Register of Historic Places. And we received a pamphlet from the U.S. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in the form of an order approving revised Exhibit F drawings as issued September 4, 2018. We received a payment in the amount of $5,034 for the July amount paid by the Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. And we also received Washington County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 203 of 2018, appointing Michael Wild as a member of the Warren and Washington County's Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation.
Reading of resolutions.
Proposed resolution numbers 349 through 383 were mailed to the board last week. Proposed resolution numbers 384 and 385 were developed after mailing. Copies of these resolutions were emailed to all members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the county website. Printed copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to bring proposed resolution numbers 384 and 385 to the floor.
384 and 385 to the floor. Supervisor Simpson, Supervisor Dickinson on the second. Any discussion? Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not, but I'm surprised that this resolution, it wasn't discussed in the last committee meeting. And basically what it is a 40-year contract land lease for property at the airport. And it's 40 years. You can make some adjustments. It's tied to the consumer price index. But my sense is that's not a good deal for the county. I wish I had a chance to spend some time discussing this, but you would think that we would think about valuing this rate based on the value of the property after, say, every 5 years or after 10 years. What we're doing is we're locking ourselves into a very good deal for a private entity for 40 years. So I have to disagree with moving this forward, but it's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. We can discuss this further under discussion of resolutions. That committee meeting was on July 30th. July 30th, where this came up at committee, but we can discuss that further under resolutions. At this time, I would ask, yes.
I just want to clarify, you're saying that this had come up through committee?
Again, we can discuss this under resolutions, but if we can do it now, if you like.
I want to know how to vote on.
Well, we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss under resolutions. We will discuss all resolutions before we vote. There'll be a debate on all resolutions before we vote. Any information you require. Right. But right now, the question that's before us is to bring it to the floor to have the discussion. That's what 384. That's what we're doing at the moment. I mean, I'm happy to entertain a question here or there, just because it's a privilege that we offer. But I would offer. But in terms of the action we're taking right now is to bring it to the floor for discussion, to make it part of our agenda. That's what we're doing. Alrighty. Then are we now ready for the question of making this part of our agenda to bring it forward on 384, 385? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything else? That's it. Roll call. Any requests for roll call? Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would respectfully request that we have a roll call on Resolution 366 for the reason that I do per diem work for the said organization articulated in the resolution.
Roll call request on 366. Any other requests for roll call? Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 377, please.
Roll call request by Supervisor Sokol on 377. Any other requests for roll call? Supervisor Strauss.
383, please.
Roll call vote on 383 by Supervisor Strauss. Any other requests for roll call? There being none at this time, I would offer the privilege of the floor to anyone in the audience wishing to comment on any resolutions presently before us. There being none, we can return to discussion on, was it 384?
384.
384. Discussion on 384. Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. I mean, I asked that question because if it had not come through committee, I was going to oppose it coming to the agenda today. I would like to know, if anyone knows, what the length of time is on the other however many hangars that we have leased out to Skimmerhorn. Does anyone know what that number is?
I'm sure, I'm going to speculate, we don't have that information here today, but they're all four. Oh, I see. You just want to know what the term is on all of them, not when they terminate.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
They're all 40.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on 384?
Are they all 40 because of the building, the age of the building, expected life expectancy of the building, or why are they 40 years?
40 years. Please.
Well, I believe what we're dealing with here is what's called a land lease. Yeah, I think I'm heading in the right direction. There's a land lease, and so at the end of the term, the buildings become ours. Go ahead, Mary.
I can only assume it's because the general municipal law allows a 40-year lease for a land lease at an airport specifically. I can't tell you if that is why they asked for the 40 years, but that's within the statute.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, I just reviewed the minutes from July. That's on the website. There's one paragraph. It didn't seem to be any discussion at all. As such, I would like to make a motion to table this resolution until we get a chance to look at this a little further.
We have a motion to table. Do we have a second to the motion to the table?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Supervisor Bramer to table 384. All those in favor of tabling 384, and I assume the motion was to send it back to committee?
Yes,
send it back to committee. All those in favor of tabling 384 and sending it back to committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tabled. Mr. Roll call on other resolutions. Supervisor McGowan.
Can I abstain from that one?
Absolutely.
Okay,
The record,
thank you.
please, record that. Supervisor McGowan abstained.
Can I just make an observation, Mr. Chairman, on what just occurred? In terms of equity and fairness, I'm not quite sure. We have tabled it, and that's fine. We have an arrangement that has been known for a long time. We meet in committee. It is discussed. At the last possible moment, we pull it, okay? Because the suggestion is that a 40-year land lease is too generous to Mr. Skimmerhorn. I guess my only comment would be, if there was a problem, to wait until the last possible moment to pull this from the agenda. Boy, I don't know. I suggest that's unfair.
Well, just really debate on that is really ended. There's no debate on a motion to table.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Any other discussion on any other resolutions? There being none, then we will vote.
Can I make one comment, please? Sorry.
Does it concern a resolution?
Yeah.
Just a moment. Yes, of course. We're going to retreat to
Sorry,
discussion on resolution. No, that's all right. Can you recite the resolution?
371.
Is that resolution 371?
Yes, I am in support of 371, allowing the snowmobilers to use the right-of-way. I just want to throw out there again, I know I sound like a broken record, but if we are going to use it for snowmobiles, why can't we let anybody else use it if this is an abandoned line? And I get your point, Supervisor Simpson, that if it's not going to be abandoned, we don't want the public to get confused, but I just want that to still be in people's minds, that if it's not used as a railroad, let's use it for other purposes, like snowmobiling, like hiking, like cycling. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on 371? Thank you. Now we'll move to voting on resolution.
Resolution 349, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 350, making Warren County budget for 2018. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 366, amending agreement with Northeast Parent and Child Society. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Abstain.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Where are we?
366.
Yes.
You missed two already.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 367, enacting Local Law 5 of 2018, amending the Warren County Occupancy Tax. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 374, amending Table of Organization and Warren County Salary and Compensation Plan for 2018. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 377, authorizing payment to the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Same.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Recuse.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 378, authorizing county treasurer to transfer funds from the computer reserve fund. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover? Resolution 380, decreasing capital project H351, CR 44 over Hudson River Bridge cleaning project. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 381, increasing capital project H353, County Bridge Abatement and Painting Project. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
And Resolution 383, supporting the Adirondack Community College Capital Improvement Plan for 2019 and 20. Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Recuse.
Chairman Conover?
Yes. Collective on the rest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. I'd offer the floor once again to anyone in the audience. There being no one. Announcements. Ms. Bramer.
Obviously, everyone knows it's Balloon Fest, but also running right by us, I, along with thousands of others, are doing Ragnar this weekend. So watch out for them on the roads, heading up to Ticonderoga and then over to Lake Placid.
Claudia will be leading the charge. Okay?
No.
Very good. Any other announcements? There being none, Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to thank the chairman and the board for including in our resolution packet 2 proclamations recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Warren County and also National Youth Court Month in Warren County.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Dickinson, second. Supervisor Thomas, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.